Grooming gangs, we talk often about this topic on this programme, don't we? And today we finally had a little bit more light shed on what is going to happen next, because we have ourselves a chair, basically, for this inquiry. We've all followed the twists and turns of this so far. You don't need me to rehash it. But Baroness Longfield, she will be the person that is going to lead it. And we also have ourselves, basically they call it a terms of reference, so essentially like the scope of what this report will follow. Some people, though, are saying that it's not sufficient what has been announced today, Matt Goodwin.
Well, I have major concerns about this inquiry. A reminder that we're talking about the systematic cover-up of one of the worst scandals in British history, which we know involved institutional failure and predominantly Pakistani Muslim gangs. What concerns me about what we've heard today, the new chair is a Labour peer. This is not a neutral player. This is somebody who's been put into the Lords by the Labour Party, somebody who is not a judge, is not experienced of managing complex evidence. The terms of reference for this inquiry, central governments will not be put under close scrutiny. So the rumours that we've heard from government insiders that the Department of Education, that the Home Office covered up this scandal, we won't get to the bottom of those rumours. We're not sure how local areas are going to be selected. Who's going to decide which areas are going to be selected and which are not? Are these going to be areas that are comfortable for the Labour government to look at, while areas that are perhaps less comfortable for the Labour Party to look at, are they going to be ignored? We're also going to have an inquiry, Michelle, which is going to be based on pre-existing cases, areas that we know had this activity. We're not going to be unearthing new cases. We're not going to be learning about extensive national networks. And just lastly, isn't this a symbol? 65 million quid on a national inquiry on the worst scandal in British history. 170 million on the Grenfell scandal. Now, isn't that symbolic of the seriousness with which this Labour government takes this issue? I want these girls to get the truth and the justice they deserve. I'm deeply, deeply worried, Michelle, that this inquiry is not going to deliver that.
Well, what do you think? I've just done a very rough calculation. So if this is going to be, what did we just say, 65 million? That's about, by my latest calculations, what we spend on things like asylum hotels and stuff. That's about just over a week, about 8 days worth of asylum hotel costs. And I can't help it, but these days I do judge everything on that metric when it comes to how much of public funds we are willing to invest. But I digress. What do you think to it all?
Well, look, we're not going to get an inquiry on the scale that people are asking for. You can't have it both ways and say, I don't want to spend money on it, but I want this thing done. I mean, this has been going on. Where I agree with you, Matt, is it's been going on for far too long. I remember being a member of the Home Affairs Select Committee more than 10 years ago when we were looking at the allegations surrounding Rotherham. So it's been going on far too long. In terms of Anne Longfield, she has, by the way, renounced her Labour whip peerage.
She's still an insider, Steve.
She will remain, she will be an independent, just as former Tory peers who resigned their whip are allowed to sit as independents. I mean, I don't know how well you know Anne Longfield, but I would have to say I've known her for quite a long time. I have nothing but respect for the woman. She is an expert on childcare. Well, hang on a second. You can come back at me, but let me just finish. She is an expert. No one is going to push her around. I agree this is going to be really difficult because, as Jim Gamble said about it, it's in a totally toxic environment. But look, we've got to start somewhere, and if you want to make progress, then it's obvious to start with the things we know about. Where this will go, I'm not sure. Personally, I think you've got to set some limits on it, because the next complaint will be it's going on forever and ever. So you've got to try and get to an end point, and you've got to try and provide some relief for the victims and lessons for the future.
We were promised a national statutory inquiry that would get to the bottom of this scandal, that would get truth and justice. Imagine you are one of the victims of the grooming gang scandal in maybe Rotherham or Rochdale or Oldham, all Labour areas. And you're waking up today and you're learning that after Labour-held councils, through this scandal, under the carpet, didn't want to know about it for 20, 30 years. You're waking up this morning to discover that the person in charge of this national inquiry, which is only going to look at a few local areas, is a Labour peer
A former
Labour peer.
Labour
Okay,
peer.
but she's been put in the House of Lords by the Labour Party, who's not even a judge. They can't even take it seriously enough to put a judge in charge.
Well, why does it have to be a judge? What you want to get to is the truth and some understanding of the people who suffered.
The reason it has to be a judge is because they're going to be dealing with conflicting, competing pieces of evidence. You're going to need a seasoned, experienced person in charge. The other thing is, what about all the areas that we know there has been activity based on social workers and charity workers, but that are likely going to be excluded from this? Take London as an example.
Well, the terms of reference are out for consultation.
Yeah, but who decides? Who decides what areas get included?
I believe that Anne Longfield and her panel
So the Labour Party will decide which local areas get included.
You're determined to brand a very talented, able person before she even starts.
A Labour peer.
As a Labour school pigeon.
Here's my challenge.
That is your determination.
Is Anne Longfield watching this show, or let's make sure she sees this clip? Here's my challenge to Anne Longfield, to this inquiry. Include Bradford in this inquiry. Include London in this inquiry. Don't just go to Rotherham, go to Rochdale. Those areas matter. But start looking at areas that have escaped public scrutiny.
Well, I hope the inquiry will go wider also, but I don't think it should go wider with the greatest respect to you because Mark Goodwin says it. I think it should be because the people who have suffered are asking for it. They're the people I want to hear from.
That's what they've been asking for. And the only reason I'm exasperated, Steve, is because your government, the Labour government, had to be, in a very embarrassing spectacle, had to be dragged by the country, kicking and screaming, to commit to holding a national inquiry into the mass rape of our children. Well, historians will look back and say, what on earth
if they were dragged kicking and screaming, what happened to the previous government who buried it for 15 years?
I'm the last person to sit here and defend the Tories. I'm the last person to sit here and defend the Tories. You and I both know this inquiry is not going to get these girls and their families the justice they deserve. You know that.
I don't know that anyone can give them the justice they deserve after all this time. I think you have to do the best you possibly can by them. And I think within 18 months in a toxic environment, this government, not through a perfect start, I'll accept, has done the best it can to get this thing together after 15 years of it being completely not swept under the carpet, but swept right under the ground.
Was this inquiry in the Labour Party's manifesto, just to remind viewers?
Not my knowledge that there would be an inquiry in the manifesto. I think the manifesto made reference to the fact that we needed to address issues like this.
Right. I'll tell you, I feel sorry for the girls. In all of this, they kind of get wheeled out, don't they, by all these different political parties. And Steve, you make the point as well that actually previous political parties, they've not done anything, and it feels like now it's almost become trendy, and I don't want to use that word because it's quite an insulting word given what we're talking about, but it almost feels like it's the most fashionable bandwagon for people to kind of jump on to try and get political currency. You know, these girls, they've had a terrible time, and I really hope that whoever heads it up and whatever it looks like and wherever it puts its tentacles, I hope that we see people locked up behind bars, actually, because this spread everywhere. This went up to highs of organisations, it went widths of organisations. There are so many people that actually should be feeling uneasy right now, and when they go to bed, they should be feeling, will I be getting a knock on the door? And hopefully the answer to that will be, yeah, you will actually. We shall see. You tell me whether or not you've got any faith in the process and whether or not you support the person that's going to be running it and what they currently say that they might be looking at